I see white guys that I know personally commit crimes, and they got money, and the money gets them out.
Right.
You know.
But I think the difference this time is though they attacked the money.
Uh-huh.
So you think they'll get punished?
I think they already are.
I also think that they're going to come back too on inauguration day. I think they're going to come back.
They're saying
all over Parliament talking about it.
Yeah. So I wonder if
they're already planning it.
Ready.
So what I want to know is, are we going to do something about that this time? Or, I mean, what are you going to do about it?
Right. Yes, I don't think that they're going to. If they get punished, I don't think it's going to be much of anything, honestly.
I don't either.
I don't.
You know, I mean, no offense to anyone, but a lot of these congressmen and senators that were sitting up in that room, they see these people that came and attacked them as white trash. They don't care about these people anymore. They care about you or me. So they will throw them to the wolves to set an example, to make a good press statement for everybody that's out there. Now, I do agree with something that you said. They'll take the ringleaders.
The ones that everybody recognized.
And they will take them and they will put them up a stage, you know, in front of the world and say, I'm going to lock this guy forever. I'm going to destroy his life. I'm going to kill him.
But can we just stop acting like it's hard to find who it is when they've all posted from their own
that's why I
accounts?
don't think they're going to do nothing. I mean, we don't know who he is.
Why are you acting like, who is this?
Right.
But they've all, there's literally videos from inside
and that's
the Capitol building on Twitter. I mean, just so there they are, get them.
And that's the beauty of social media, though. They can't hide that because on social media, these people are calling them out on Twitter day long.
Right.
This is such a such. He was here.
They watched him plan it and talk about it for weeks.
So they're being forced to go arrest these people because it's
out there, right?
So
that just boils my.
They're gonna get a couple weeks in jail, and then they're gonna pick up garbage on the side of the road after work for a few months.
I believe that's the majority.
That's about what they're gonna do.
Right. And I believe that too, because like with fair reading cases, you'll have a black man do the same thing in the same jurisdiction as a white man, and the black man gets a larger sentence. Like and they'll say, well, you got to look at his record and his criminal past and this and this and this.
I got a question. I didn't want to forget. But isn't the Capitol a federal building?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wasn't that B&E, also known as breaking and entering?
Yes.
It was a federal offense. But they're not going to be prosecuted like that. They're going to get, they're not even, America likes their prisons black and their neighborhoods white. They're going to go to work every day and then they're going to do like some chores after work or something. They're not going to be in prison for a federal offense, many federal offenses, not to mention the mail, not to mention the attempted kidnapping. All these federal offenses. And mark my words, those people will be going to work still and doing chores after work. That will be their punishment because this is America.
You're club fed, you know. That's about it. The very first protest that I hosted was supposed to take place at the federal courthouse in Louisville, Kentucky. And, word of mouth spread and they found out I was going to be there. And the police were waiting on me when I got there. And it told me that police officer was black. And he was like, look, I'm supposed to arrest you. I was like, but arrest me for what? Nobody's here but me. You arrest me for wanting to do a protest? He said, yeah. He said, but you can go around the corner at the Breonna Taylor Memorial and say what you got to say over there. And I brought that up because he was like, it's a federal building. And
so you couldn't even, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Nope.
So that's a big difference.
Yeah. And I wanted to protest there because 2 of my cases come from the federal courthouse in Louisville, Kentucky. So I wanted to stand on the federal courthouse and speak up for them, but they sent me away.
Yeah, in the Trump terror attack from the other day, there was a mayor from Oklahoma, Republican mayor.
I remember you talking about going there next time you bring me with you.
Right.
I know that's right.
But yeah, he was live streaming when they were going up. He got right up to the steps of the Capitol and he said, "No, I ain't going in there."
Right. Right.
The mayor, he's like, he's sitting there filming and saying, "Wow, all these guys, they're in trouble." So
Danielle brought up the tokens that they showed on the news. The 2 black people, the one with the dark skinned guy with the red hat. And
those guys are being blasted all over Parler for being Antifa. That's just not true, but that's what they're doing.
First of all, how stupid do you have to be?
Right.
be the black man at the Trump rally that storms the Capitol.
Right. And you're on
I mean, you are a black man at the Trump rally.
And maybe those,
I mean,
maybe those
there's-
two get prison.
There's maybe
Right.
5 of y'all.
That's what I
Yeah.
told Danielle. I said they're gonna give them to the Senate. They're gonna
Yeah,
blame it
right.
all on them. See, these white people wouldn't have done it if they didn't give them the idea.
Yeah, they printed all the rebel flags and all that.
Right.
Yeah,
And you know, we live in the era of the conspiracy theory.
Right.
You know,
Oh
I mean,
God.
so at some
Oh, thank
point,
you,
there'll be a
YouTube.
time to tear it
Yeah.
all back together.
Yeah, that's all I've been getting all day was that's like I was telling you about the
people
they
think,
were saying that they're working together. They did this to keep us divided. They want us to stay divided so we don't see what's really going on and this and that.
people think they watch a YouTube video and they know things. No,
Yeah.
life experience makes you know things. You go out and you see things for yourself. Stop watching YouTube.
Right.
You know, common sense is a flower that doesn't grow in every garden. That's the
Right.
problem. You know, so I mean, you gotta think for yourself. So at some point, you can't let the internet tell you everything that you know.
So the founder affair had me read the crime bill of 1994 a few weeks ago, and I was like in tears reading it. I've heard about it, never sat down and read. I mean, I didn't even get all the way through. It's like 300 pages, but I got to like 60 something and I couldn't take no more. But as I was reading it, everything made sense. It explained to me why a police officer can kill an unarmed black man and get away with it because it's to his discretion. If that man's a threat, it's his discretion. So when they get into the courtroom and the attorney argues it, all he has to do is resort back to that part of the crime bill and say, well, in his mind, he was a threat. And the crime bill says, right, the crime bill says if it's his discretion. So I could be sitting, I eat in my car a lot because I'm doing Uber, whatever. So I could be sitting in my car eating lunch and a police officer shoot me in the head. To him, I was a threat and he's going to get away with it, even though I was just eating salad. Everybody will be marching with salads, to protest my honor. But to him, I was a threat. Danielle wants to call in. You can call in now, Danielle. If I don't know, she's listening in. You can call in when you're ready. And then also the way we get sentenced and all that, it all just, made sense to me. I'm not saying it's right, but everything that FAIR fights for, it made sense to me because it was just like they gave them permission to do this to an entire race of people.
White people complain when they, drink and drive too many times and they got to pay all this money and do all this whatever. But black folks are in prison for years and years for those same things that y'all are going and
if you
picking up trash after work
exactly,
for.
and if you don't
Same
believe
crime.
it, go out and read the USSC. That was
Yeah,
written by the government.
right.
It's the government saying, yes, we're unfairly treating black people.
Right.
The government is saying.
But if you know you're doing it, why not stop? I don't understand it. And it's a hard, even fighting for my own race, I have to.
Well, it's a
I have
systematic thing that
fear
has to be
and
dealt with from the
stuff
inside.
inside, right. I know with criminal justice reform, there's a lot of inmates on the inside that are advocating, but they're speaking through us is one of them. A lot of times I'll do a rally and he'll tell me what to say. And I'll be like, oh my God, you were powerful. But it's really what he told me to say. Of course, I added my own spin to it, but he gave me all the knowledge, and then meeting each one of these cases gave me more insight on how we're being done. Because until then, I honestly felt like if I didn't do anything wrong, I should be good. I should be good. But then I started meeting people who went left when they should have went right. And I mean, literally went left when they, I have a guy that said I was supposed to go to my grandma's house, but I decided to go over here and get pizza. And had I went where I was supposed to go, I wouldn't be doing life in prison. It's situations like that. And then the way the court system does it, you can have all the proof in the world that you're innocent, but if your attorney doesn't file a motion to present the evidence, then you're going to lose in trial. I learned that yesterday. I didn't know that.
And they're getting attorneys that are, given to them that day that didn't even do their homework or even understand the
court-appointed
case.
attorney works for the prosecution.
It does.
So they're going to do the bare minimum. I got into a huge argument with Vancito Gumm's attorney because they were saying he was a hitman for the Gangsta Disciples. So I messaged the ones that I knew and said, hey, before your arrest, what was your relationship with him? And they was like, I didn't know that nigga. I didn't know that nigga. And so I printed out, I didn't know that nigga from all these people. How can you be killing for somebody and they don't even know who you are? First of all, if you're gonna kill people for me, can I at least meet you to know that, you know, you're gonna be killing folks for me?
Well,
So
on my
I know
behalf.
who to come on my behalf. So his attorney told me that they didn't want to see that. And I was like, why? And he was like, I mean, you're gonna make things worse. I said, by
You're
preventing
gonna make your job a little harder.
Right.
You might have to like stay up a little later.
Right. And I was just like,
Not
so
to actually
if I
do your
show
job.
them the statements from each guy and it comes from their prison link and it says their prison number and their name, and it says, I don't know this nigga, that's not enough to get him, you know, to save his life. And they was like, and me and the attorney, I said, I forget you work for the prosecution. He goes, you don't know everything. So, you know,
and your case number, what of how many thousand?
right. So, you know, as we go on, he ends up getting 15 years and they changed their narrative. So this is where they said the media was saying all these years he was a hitman. So now they say he's a self-proclaimed hitman. And I said, okay, but okay, I have children. I have grown children and they lie. They try to act like there's stuff that they're not. So
I mean,
let's say
a lot of
he calls himself, right.
Things
Right,
for
they're just
example.
lying. So let's say that's what happened. He just made it up. You gave him 15 years for lying. When I know so many people, I've lied when I was young, saying I was something I wasn't. So I should go to prison soon.
I know people who make up whole scenarios. that
Right.
never happen.
You know that I used to do counseling at
Right.
the prison system. And I would go in and I'd meet with these guys and I know them by reputation, and then I start to open their file, like, wait a minute.
Right. I
know,
mean, when we used to work together, there was people that swore that we were going to get shot up because we pissed, you know, just wait till my people get here. We're watching the door like any moment.
Hey, I was
now.
the one person that didn't have a single tiff with a single person. I
Right.
was like, I just knew who to not piss off.
I mean, there was a guy that I counseled, 6'5", 6'6", about 350. It's just intimidating look. And I said, and I heard his reputation about all these things he had done and all that. And I'm sitting here and I'm preparing myself to counsel this guy. So, you know, and honestly, when you're counseling someone like that, you have to come across to them as you will not intimidate me.
Right.
So I'm preparing this persona for him.
Right.
The minute the door closes, the real him comes out. I open his file up. This guy's like from Bel Air or somewhere like that. He's come from money. He never did anything wrong.
Right.
But his reputation was of the effect that he had done this and killed that person and raped this person and did all these robberies, and he was just not the guy to mess with. So, you know, there's the perception, there's reality.
Right. But see, we worked with a white girl like that, you know, she threw up gang signs, and then I became friends with her, and she had pictures of her playing polo, and I was like, wait a minute, how'd you end up with the Crips, and how'd you go from Bel Air to Crenshaw? Like, how'd that happen? Well, you know, shawty, you know.
You know, and the problem is especially in the Black community, you know, I guess that's an unfair statement in and of itself because it's from that street mentality.
Right.
You know what? I'm going into court gangster.
Right.
I'm going in gangster. You know, not true gangster. I'm going in with that mentality that, you know, I ain't gonna take no. I'm not.
Right.
You know, that's who I am. And the unfortunate fact is while you're preparing yourself with that persona that you're going into court, what you should be doing is reading what your rights are.
Right.
What's available to you. I know that this problem.
They really want to see that persona.
Right.
They want you to come in there pretending to be gangster so they can give you some more notes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For example, you know, my attorney said, I've talked to people like, you know what, you're going to trial. Yeah. Do you have a trial consultant?
Right. But see, that's why I'm so thankful to you, because I'm able to come on here and everything I learned, like we spit out case laws and different things that they can do in trial each week, and people will call me, okay, so blah 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 blah, whatever it is, because I told them the only way you're gonna know is to get the knowledge that you need, because nobody's gonna defend you like you. And I have to stay on it. I got a call last night, a guy hasn't heard from his attorney since the day they met. And he's in prison waiting to see, are you gonna be able to help me or not? And he's got both my phones blocked, so I called from Tania's phone. And he goes, okay, I'm gonna call you back. And then I tried to call back and he blocked that number. But I was just like, you just took, these attorneys are taking people's money. This is their life.
Yeah.
And there has got to be something about, if you're not going to do the job.
And the attorney, it's just that, it's a job.
It's a job.
And one of the things I was explaining to this one young man, it was like he was in jail for charges already. Convicted. He was coming up on another trial for some other charges.
Right.
And I asked him, what's your attorney? Oh, my attorney, blah, 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 blah. It's like, you got serious charges. Do you have a trial consultant? What's that? I said, that's where they pay somebody like me to come in while they're doing jury selection.
Yeah.
Watch the questions. So, and what happens, it's not the attorney. See, the attorney, he's going to give you the questions that he thinks are relevant to the jury. A trial consultant's going to write down the questions that are going to show you the behavior of the jurist.
Right.
And what I do is I will sit and analyze each person, their reactions to those questions, and make a jury selection based off of that. And it's not just something that's available to the rich.
Right.
There are licensed professional counselors, people who don't have their doctorate out there, who do the same thing.
Wow, I didn't know that. Thanks for telling me.
Yeah, they will go out there, they'll charge, but they'll do the same thing.
Right.
But
when your life is on the line.
Exactly.
Yeah, the freedom is on the line. Yeah.
Exactly. I haven't done a lot, but I've done it. And my specialty is behavioral psychology.
And that's another thing too, like with Stacey Abrams getting people to vote thinking they matter. Sometimes they just kind of don't. I don't want to say, it's kind of the same though, where they're just like not really looking up. There's, you know what I mean? But they just think that this is what's going to happen. And they don't know their own
power.
power.
That up because we talk about that all the time with FAIR. When the inmate calls me and the family realizes they got somebody looking into this, so now everybody's kind of back awake and concerned about this person's life. And as I start talking about it, the first, that's how they do us, and
And that's another part of Black Lives Matter. It's not just about not killing people of color. It's about you matter when you're about to get your whole life thrown away over something that should have been a slap on the wrist.
Right. But see, what we don't know hurts us. And I was so happy that Seth called me yesterday. We started off arguing because I was on the defense because he was reading through my social media on cases. He was like, sounds like some bullshit. So you mean to tell me this? And I get overprotective of these cases. Like, okay, first of all, have you seen the case? Whatever. They're like, hold on, I'm not trying to fight with you. Keep in mind, I was on death row. And he was hold on one second, Danielle. Hold on one second. And so he said, but let me show you why they lost in court. It's not necessarily the case, it's what didn't happen, what the attorney's lack of doing their job caused them to lose in court. And he said, so what you need to do moving forward is you need to get their court documents, and if they already had an appeal, you need them documents, and you need, if they did a heavy, you need every document, every piece of document, and you need to send, find out exactly why were they not allowed to submit their evidence, because it could be because the attorney didn't get it in their own time. So if you don't get it in their own time, you can't submit it. That's why a lot of times, that's not because the judge is always racist. Sometimes it's because there's rules to the courtroom. And I was like, really? He's like, trust, I fought for myself for 18 years. So I know the rules of the courtroom. That's how I was able to finally get out. He said, so you need to learn the rules of the courtroom and you need to push those, and that's how you can get some of these people home. And I was so thankful. So he's going to come do a show with me on the rules of the courtroom. He went, but he passes through Atlanta next month. But hey Danielle.
Hi.
Hey. So you tuning in?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you want to speak on something?
I can just listen and comment in when something comes up if you want. I don't want to go back or, start talking about something that is the extra just don't know about right now.
Okay. So yeah, just your take on everything. Just curious of your take. I know you and I have been on the phone like all day for the past couple of days watching this, but kind of share some of your feedback on what's been happening on the news.
I wanted to touch a little bit on the fact that some people think that the Democrats and Republicans were all in on together. And I really, like I said, I don't think that this is an instance where they were. I do know that there's a lot of corruption, and I know that, a lot of times they are all in together, but I don't feel like this is one of the times. Not just because, like you said, that they have their family there and other things, but if you listen to some of them, one of them was on Rashad Richie's show today, and I listened to him, and if you listen to them, and they were here, and they would have put themselves in that situation, and I don't even think that was a Democratic or Republican thing, that was a Trump thing.
Right.
And he knew what he was doing.
Right.
And he did that on purpose. I think he's going to get back at the Republicans who don't have his back, because he's never been told no when he's like a big child, but he is told no because the temper tantrum. And, the whole I'll show you. And that's why he did what he did with the election in Georgia, which I feel that it would have won regardless. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that he's the only reason, but that's why he pulled what he pulled. And when it gets, and it all boils down to the fact of Kim's a plant monster, and he wanted him to plant Holland. And he still is not happy about that. So that's why he's acting up with. He's going to try to mess the peace with the government by anybody who doesn't listen to him. And it's not about what's best for the Republican Party, it's what he wants.
Right. And I shared a post about that yesterday. Somebody posted, we were marching because our lives are being taken. Y'all are throwing a temper tantrum. It's a big difference. When I left your house today, at that gas station on 92, I saw a Trump supporter with a big old, it was like 3 of them in pickup trucks, but the leader had a Trump flag and an American flag, and then he had another flag that said "fuck Biden," and their T-shirt said January the 19th. So, and then last night I saw, I think Sarah had shared a post where they were saying on January the 19th they were going to do something. Now we're seeing this. They're not backing down, even though, what happened the other day, people are supposed to get arrested, maybe not. Do you think the government is preparing for January the 19th or 20th or whatever that week of the possibility of things that could happen?
I think that what they're going to try to do is make it look like they're preparing, but I don't think that they're preparing. But on CNN, just a few minutes ago, they actually shared something to where they were posting and getting posts from Trump supporters that are saying that they are going back up on the 18th, and they're going to storm the building, kill the cops. I'm trying to see what else. Kill security.
Wait, hold on. You said kill the cops, but I thought Blue Lives Mattered.
Exactly.
Right. So they don't matter no more.
Not after Tuesday.
Right. But they let you in, so they're like, that's crazy. That's
Nothing makes sense in the conspiracy age.
right. That's crazy. Yeah, I kind of feel like that. I was listening to Trump, and he said he's not going to be at the inauguration. And so that right there, I said, for you, I mean, Trump probably wouldn't have came with
Does he think something bad is going to happen?
Right. That's why I was like, so why aren't you going to? I know they said there's a fence going to guard Biden.
Well, the last president to not do that is his favorite president, and that was Andrew Jackson.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen CNN. I haven't watched CNN today to get the latest updates. I've been kind of on the move all day. But when I saw them leaving your house, I thought that's the first thing. I said, okay, now I see this clear as day. And I was trying to take a picture, but I was out of my car, so there was no way I could do it slick. I wanted to be like, can I take a picture with you guys? Whatever. Can I take a selfie? And then
and in fact, what was really bad was when Daniel's baseball team got together at the guest grandparent thing where we went into the nursing home, and his baseball team provided gifts for the 68 residents in nursing home, which they do every year. Because of COVID, they could not go inside. So the boys had to eat outside and took them to the front door them kept going back and forth. You know, and here are these kids that are 12 and 13 years old and just keep seeing that. I don't know what the point of that was, because to be honest with you, this particular, they know what two teams, but this particular baseball team, and a real little boy of color on the team. So I don't know if he was trying to, you know, get some, yeah, we're your right, or like what, if you just want the attention of these offers of people outside. But I feel often the idea of coming back and forth, I don't know if it's intimidate or if you want attention, like you said, but I would doubt that he would, you know, have knowledge of what's going on, and they're broadcasting it. They broadcasted before they did this.
Right.
And they had 12 different tweets from the president on December 21st saying that it was going down on the 6th. 12 from the president of the United States, but the FBI and the government didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
Like, you can't tell me that they didn't know. And then the excuse that I've been hearing, because I went back and forth, I'm a firm believer in not watching one news channel. So I go back and forth. I don't like Fox News, but I will switch just so that I can get an all-rounded story.
Absolutely.
And the big thing that I'm getting from them is, you know, they say, well, Trump's supporters in the past have not been violent. So we knew they were coming because it would be violent or take it responsible.
Right.
Yes.
Wow. You know, and going back to the election, just the highway being full of Trump flags. Unless I just don't remember, I don't remember seeing that during any other election, like a bunch of Bush flags,
No,
a
never.
bunch of Obama flags.
That's
I
an
see one
obsession.
here,
It's a
right?
weird
I see the
obsession.
T-shirts.
And that's a clear indicator, though,
Right.
that this entire thing is a cop-out that it's about America. Because when you looked at that crowd on January 6th, out in front of there, you saw some American flags. You saw some Confederate flags.
Right.
But you saw a sea of Trump flags.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that you are America first, but you're carrying a Trump flag over
Right.
the American flag?
Right. Yeah. That I mean, it was
I don't remember Obama flags.
no. I
Or anybody.
or anybody flag. Yeah. I just literally while she was talking was like, have I? With Obama, I saw the T-shirt with his face and change.
And the bumper sticker.
But
Yeah,
it was a
bumper
hopeful
sticker.
looking thing.
Right.
It wasn't like a
Everybody else, I
masculine
just seen
thing.
like the signs in their yard and the bumper sticker. But this is the first time it was kind of creepy at times. I think
It was very creepy.
I think when we on the phone one day and I was like, oh, holy shit, what is happening? And I was going one way up 285 and I looked to the other side and Trump was all across and I was like, what the hell? And then she had told
And
me
they
it was a
think that
Trump
just
rally.
because they're louder, that there's more of them than us, but there's not more of them. That's why they lost. They're just
Right.
louder.
We don't worship Biden. We just want him to be the
No.
president.
We don't go
You
to
know?
rallies because we're not in a cult. We just
Right.
go vote.
And that's the other thing. The 74 million votes that came in, they didn't necessarily come in because they were Donald Trump supporters. They were Republicans or they were anti-Biden. They
Right.
weren't necessarily pro-Trump.
And let's
Right.
talk about how many votes are still sitting stuck in the mail because of what he did with the mail. That's mail fraud.
Right.
He used his power to mess with our mail. I still haven't received
Yeah.
things in the mail that I should have gotten months ago.
Right. And on that
And,
note,
and,
I
and
have
so how many votes are still sitting in the mail right now?
Right.
And he still lost.
I have sent documents to inmates and they sent stuff to me and I'm like, I haven't received it yet. I haven't gotten it.
I haven't received
And-
any mail.
Received it, yeah. And I'm like, so why am I just not getting
And
mail?
that should have been enough to impeach him right there, messing with the mail like that. That
Right.
should have been enough, just that. Just any of the hundreds of things that
Right.
he's done should have been enough. And because nothing happened is why I don't think these guys are going to actually pay the price for what they did.
But see, she and I were talking about Herman Cain earlier, the fact that they pretty much ended him from running by bringing up his affair. Now, Obama couldn't have 2 baby mamas
No.
or 3 baby mamas. And, and Michelle couldn't used to be in Black Tails or work in Magic City. Like, we have to be.
No.
And once again, though, that goes back to my point that these are not Republicans. These
Right.
are Trumpers.
And they're
Right.
huge conspiracy that Michelle Obama's a man. And I'm like, first of all, that's dumb. And then second of all, like that's a dumb conspiracy. But second of all, if she really is, that's freaking cool as hell. Like,
Right.
why would that even be a
Well, if
bad
they
thing?
think she's a man, they must think I'm one too, because she's fine. So if you think,
I mean, why would there be something wrong with that? What's wrong with that? That's
right,
pretty cool.
she's you look like a man, I guess I do too. Goodness.
They're still talking about that on Twitter. I see it every day. It's so just bizarre.
So now
even
let's
say
talk
that.
about the Black Trump supporters. Why do y'all think?
Those are paid by Craigslist. Those aren't real.
No, I met some. No, I have some that work with me at UPS that voted for Trump.
Real ones.
Yeah, some real ones. And they gave their reasons. They were conspiracy reasons, and I was just,
Okay,
you
that
know,
explains it.
yeah, I was lost.
You
Like
too.
they would try to explain them, and I would be sitting there like,
Here's slave mentality is a real
right.
thing.
Now, the ones that have done prison time, I can kind of understand why, because especially
Because
those
it's a situation that benefits you.
right. Well, no, not
And
even,
they're
not
living
even
in
that,
time.
but those who suffered from the Crime Bill Act. Of course, they're gonna
Oh,
hate.
that's
right.
They're gonna hate Biden.
Right.
And I have
Well, the
cases out of
difference
California that
Trump
Kamala
and
was.
Biden is that Biden's trying to go back on those kind of things now and realize, hey, you
Uh,
know,
Do y'all
change his
think he's
stripes a
really
little.
gonna go back on him though? Because it's a lot of money at
Well,
stake.
from some of the positions that he's been filling, maybe, but more so than
What do you think? I don't think so because it's too much money being made off of the backs of inmates.
I don't feel well because of we pay.
Right.
But you were touching on the point about Kamala.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris. You know, I will be blunt with you. I had issues with Kamala Harris.
Yeah, me too.
When you look at her
a lot of
record,
people did.
I have a lot of issues with Kamala
Right.
Harris. But here's the thing. It's the lesser of two evils.
Right. Because I think see when he picked her, I was like, they're seduced by her because she's black, you know, or she, you know, part black. And so that's how he's gonna win. But I was looking, you know, if I didn't work with Fair, I would have been like, okay, sister, HBCU grad. But because I'm reading cases and people argue with me about these cases, like I have 2 cases that they were clearly drug addicts, not drug dealers or nothing, and they're doing life. And they'll say, well, they knew California had their 3rd strike, but they didn't get to their 3rd strike and they got life. They're never going to get out of prison if something doesn't change. And I'm reading Kamala Harris's comments, and it was just like she had no regard for their life at all. And then I was sitting in a court for Ortega's Cochran, and there was some meth addicts in there, and they were babying them. It was, you know, well, have you been to your rehab and have you done this? And then one of them speaks up and she says, if I can't travel, I have to travel for my work. And if I can't travel, then I'm just going to be homeless. And the judge granted it. I'm like, you idiot. She wants to push her meth some more. You now, if a black person would have said that and been sincere and really had a job that they had to travel, you would have been like, nah, buddy, you ain't about to push cocaine up the coast no more. It's a wrap. But I was just thinking about it, and I was like, you know, when it comes to white privilege and a drug usage, it's a disease and it's an illness. But when it comes to black people, we're already monsters by nature in their mind. You're just making it worse by giving them drugs. And then one of my cases, he's a white guy. We brought up his situation as a child, and he might actually get to go home. But if you say, oh, you know, Brian Hopkins was beat by his father and molested by his aunt, and they were like, oh, that just made him even more of a monster. We gotta get him out. We gotta get him off the streets.
Yeah, it's a fair thing. I mean, all the comments I'm seeing on any news thing about any Democrat winning, it's just these terrified white folks. Oh my God, hell in a handbasket, they say.
Right.
Word for word. That's what they say. Oh my God, Georgia's going to hell.
Right.
And what are they so scared of?
Socialism, and we're going to end up the communist thing. I mean, that's the main trigger word that I see that to make other
Right.
And that's a good point, because I believe the overusage of the socialism term and the calling of radicals constantly, I believe that is one of the things that pushed Warnock and Ossoff over. I don't know if you guys watched that debate with Kelly Loeffler, but Kelly Loeffler, every time she referenced Warnock, the radical Raphael Warnock, every time, I mean, she must have said it 35, 40 times to the point where Fox News said, okay, Kelly, we get it.
Right.
You know, but she just kept pushing it. And I think anybody who's ever been in the military would love to introduce you to a true radical.
Right.
You know, you've not seen radicals. I'm sorry. Yes, we did. Tuesday, we saw radicals.
We saw radicals, right.
Yeah, that's definitely what radical looks like.
So yeah, it was just I changed my mind about doing the Mississippi show when I was reading comments and watching the news, and I said, let's address this because FAIR is fighting for equality in the courtroom, and take a look at these cases, and they weren't given their fair shot because they didn't have money and because of the color of their skin.
Mm-hmm.
But then right there on national TV, when I get out and I speak about the differences in cases, even Black people will say, well, they should have thought about this, that, and the third. And the one thing I hate to hear you and I talk about, if you do the time, do the crime, you do the time. But let's say you do commit a crime. You don't even know what the time is because you might say, well, if I get caught for this, I'm gonna get 5 years, and then you get in there and it's 50 years.
And see, you and I have talked about this.
Yes.
I think we've where I am. If I do this crime, I should know long before my court case gets set.
Right.
This is how much time I'm going to get.
Right.
Or not.
Right.
That eliminates the white, Black, Latino, Asian factor. I mean,
Right. So I did a show, Brian, and with you being a court consultant, you tell me if you think this will work. You remember when I said study cases before your sentencing and look at what the average sentence that they give the white people is, and then when you get on, your thing, have your people that does your character witness speak on that and say, while Brian is doing his 5 to 10 years, do you think something like that will work? Because a lot of times these judges, like, some of my cases are so unbelievable, the sentence that they got. Like murder, even if you're wrongfully accused, it's murder. Whether it was you or not, I can understand the sentence because they believe you murdered the person. But if you got caught with 2 grams of cocaine, why should you be in prison for 120 years?
Because when the judge puts on that robe, he's an omnipotent being. He's
Right.
no longer human.
Right.
So, and this is my issue with the whole thing. What happened to the judge that day before he put on that?
Right.
Did he spill his coffee on his pants on his way to the office? And
Did he
is he all
argue with
pissed
his
off
wife?
now?
Yeah.
I mean, did he get kicked out and had to sleep in a spare bedroom?
Right.
That impacts a sentence.
I remember Iz told me, he said, when I go to my sentencing, pray that Judge Thrash gets some head, that he won the lottery, all things is good in his life. He said, because if anything, if he woke up with a headache, if his wife nagged him, then I can get the worst sentence ever.
When I went for my divorce hearing, I'm sitting there, and when you go to divorce court, something you got to listen to a bunch of it.
Right.
So I'm sitting there and I'm listening to this judge just give it to people, and I am sitting there the entire time saying I'm screwed.
Right.
I am literally screwed.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I've sat in courtrooms like that. It was just like, oh my God, you poor thing.
When it paid for Hagel, the judge would have called me three attorneys, and they wouldn't even take it because of the judge.
Oh yeah, it was Artagas. They was like, Emerson is not going to give us our fair shot. But I put.
Two prosecutors instead of a prosecutor and a judge just went for comments where they would be the same case because the judge is like an asshole.
He's such an asshole. So yeah, no attorney wants to go in there knowing they're going to lose. So they wouldn't take it, and it was because of the judge. It wasn't there was no sign of his guilt anywhere, but they didn't want to take it because of the judge. They didn't want to take. And the sad part about his case was at the end of it, he never got indicted. He wasn't guilty, and they ended up settling for 18 months. So he has 2 more months to go because he's been in prison over a year. And he just said, okay, because, at least I know I can go home in 2 months. He said, okay, y'all can stop fighting for me because I don't want y'all to make that worse. That's good. I get to go home in March. Shut up. Don't call that judge no more. Don't say nothing to my attorney. And it was like, no, because that's still, I'm like, it's his life. If he say he's going to take it. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that scared me, and honestly scared me isn't the right word, but terrified me when Trump unleashed the execution beast.
Oh yeah.
That's what terrified me.
Right. See, before the election, he was executing white boys, and then after it was like, I'm gonna get all these black men and a woman because fuck her too. So yeah, and that was crazy. But what got me with before we did our show on death row, I said, you know, I was for capital punishment, depending on what you did, until I read. No, let me finish. Until I read what the people on death row did, and I was like, I got cases that got less time, you know, than this. Or doing case law for people, we research, you know, cases where this person, yeah, he stole a car, but this person chopped off her head, took her purse, and stole a car, and he got 3 years. So now I'm against the death penalty because, you know, how do I know he just wasn't over sentenced or she wasn't, you know?
Well, and when you somebody the death penalty based on somebody else's testimony saying that they hired you, the person that you killed, and that's only evidence they have, like the gentleman from Oklahoma. I'm sorry, but I'll hold with that. You cannot put somebody to death because somebody else said that they were guilty of something.
Right.
There's no evidence of that. That's one person's version, and many people are on the road because of that.
See, we have a couple of cases where they're in there because of word of mouth, not because they actually, there's no DNA evidence of them at the crime scene. It's because a person said they did it. Like, it says, we have one case in St. Louis where the dude said, his homie said, if I give you somebody else, can you let me off of this? And he just said it was him. And when they went back and looked at the DNA, it didn't match him, but he's your friend, why would he lie on you? But we found cases where, you know, our counterparts, well, there's not enough. Okay, I know you said he did it, but we don't have enough evidence supporting your claim that it was him. So he got to go home. And then they'll say, and then, you know, so we were using that and they said, you know, he was 18 and he signed a plea. And in my mind, an 18-year-old ain't grown. I mean, we know legally they're grown. But in my mind, an 18, now if a 30-year-old signed a plea, you know, I will give you that. But an 18-year-old and you're scaring him, you're beating up on him.
I can tell you most adults, I don't care what their age.
Right.
You sit me in a room with most adults for 5 hours, I will get them to admit to some things they've never even seen.
It's
before.
the way you talk to them.
Yeah.
We remember we said that, like, you know, when I started doing fair, like with Orlando Fields case, and the way that they took him in a dark room and they shoved pins down his throat and beat him. And when you look at his mugshot, you can see that he was beat up. And I was like, how, you know, so do I need to start punching my kids and say, okay, we just need to see how long you can take this so you'll know not to, like,
yeah, go through what
right. And then it made me question, how long can I get beat on before I finally break? Before I finally just say, you know, fuck it, okay, I shot.
Well, that's why the U.S. government stopped eliminating torture. I mean, you torture somebody long enough, they're going to say whatever the hell you want them to say.
Right.
You know,
right.
So, I mean, so are you getting the truth? Are you getting what you really want to know? Are you just getting what he's telling you to stop the pain?
Right. One of the guys, he said the 18-year-old, well, he's 26 now, but he said they didn't let him eat for almost 2 days. And then the man came in there with some White Castle and sat there and just started eating it in his face. And he's like, I'll give you some if you just go ahead and admit you did it, and I'll let you know. And he's like, so you'll let me eat? And I was just like, White Castle? He said, you know, keep in mind I was 18 at the time and I hadn't eaten in 2 days. I was hungry. And I was just like, dang, you know, I know, you know, like you said, some 30, 40-year-olds who can't go an hour, you know. So it just depends on the person, like what you can stand.
And there, you can look this up. There are books about it. There's the psychological process of influencing and implementing thought. It's true. It happens.
Right.
You know, I don't know if you've ever been to a hypnotic or hypnotist show.
Yeah.
Certain people are suggestive, some people are not. You can, if you're suggestive, a hypnotist can implant a thought into your mind that's completely untrue. He can implant a memory in your head that's completely untrue.
Right.
Completely made up.
Yeah,
Someone you've never
people
seen.
being convinced they did a crime they didn't even do after
Right.
this.
Yeah.
Well, they say you can also tell yourself something enough to
believe it.
Yeah.
To believe it. Yeah.
So.
Which I believe is one of the other problems with our president.
Right. Right.
Yeah, he actually said the words in the beginning. He said, if I say things enough times, people will believe it. He said those in those words.
Right. But see, that goes back to what I said earlier. He didn't hide nothing. He did everything right there in everybody's face.
And they still like it.
And they was like, yes, take me to your leader.
I think what you were saying about how you differentiate from coworkers who have the American voting for him, I think it does have some of that because at the end of the day, he was very obvious. Like, this is why I'm an asshole. And if you're not a white male, fuck you, basically.
Right.
But with Democrats, they have a history, and I'm not saying every single Democrat, okay? But they do have a history of lying to the public and making it seem like, hey, I'm here for the African American community, and then go behind their back and say, here's,
Right.
here's a salary or welfare check. Oh, by the way, we're going to start mass incarceration.
Right.
You don't know until years later that this is what has happened. So there is
Exactly.
you want the evil you can see rather than the evil you can't see.
Right. And at the end of the day, you got to realize, like, when we talk about the crime bill, Biden was in his early 50s at the time, or whatever, late 40s. And in his mind, when, he's looking at all of us as the same. And so, like, the war on drugs in the 80s, when, the communities went complaining about the drugs that they planted into the community. When the mamas and stuff went, they looked at all black mamas as crack whores and all black daddies as.
Are you the same person that you were 25 years ago?
No, I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago. Life changes.
It's that simple.
Right.
Like you said earlier, life teaches you.
Right.
So, you can't continually hold someone to the same standards of the things they did in the past unless they continually have a history of doing those same things.
Right.
Sort of like the Central Park 5, the housing situation, the very fine people.
Right.
This is a history.
Right.
This is who he is.
Right.
And unfortunately, racism is embedded in some people's being.
Yeah, exactly. So, moving forward, we're getting ready to have a new president in a few days. I know things ain't gonna change like that day, like with Obama, people thought we were all gonna become millionaires. We have a black president, we all gonna be rich,
40 acres in the middle.
Right. Everything's about to get better.
And I heard a bunch of people say, "Oh, it's going to be so terrible," and that's all that. And it's like, wait a minute, didn't you just say that 12 years ago?
Right. But they got at the end of the day, Biden can't just change anything.
Right. At the end of the day, you make your own choices and you reap what you sow.
Right.
You can't count on the government to control how your day goes.
Right. Exactly. But you do got to know what's going on around you and pay attention to the rules and the laws. And, we were talking about the stimulus checks being Band-Aids. Of course, I need another one. But, it's not really solving the problem. It's just Band-Aiding it. And then, a lot of people take care of their bills or whatever they needed to do, and they're back at square one. And then some people went, "Ooh, I get a TV," even though fuck my landlord. They said we got 90 more days to pay.
And you know what? That's a good point, because on that stimulus check, when they sent that out, they did not intend for you to pay your landlord or your electricity bill, because guess what? That doesn't help most of them.
Right.
They want you out at retail
want you
to
at the
spend
store.
that money,
They want you
driving
to go
the
to the
stock
store.
price up. That's what they wanted you to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
That's why it's called stimulus.
but to all of you people that are sitting out there that are saying to yourselves, "Oh, well, I'm not going to pay it because I got this rent moratorium," guess what? At some point, that bill's going to come due.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So
And
they gave you more
about what you're going to
time.
do.
They gave you more time. If it's better to pay on what you got than to let that eviction hit. I've been there. That eviction is a scarlet letter. If you get an eviction on your credit, you can't rent from nobody else for like some places 3 years. And if you got 3 years to stay with mom or a cousin or whatever, do what you do.
And as you know, I've been a landlord. I guarantee you, the minute that landlord can come after you, there is going to be a line 3 miles long outside the courthouse.
Oh yeah.
Because guess what? He's still got to pay his bills.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, it's a lot. So, moving forward, as far as what Biden goes, it wasn't easy for me to vote for him. Now, if I never did fair, I would have, yes, Biden, but, reading into cases, reading his influence on, what's happening. I'm still not a fan Kamala, and I'm not disrespecting her. I'll never remember how to say this. Miss Harris. I'm still not a fan of hers, but you know, they have a way to redeem themselves. And if this first term they show me it, then I will be the first one voting for them second term. If not, I'll be like, okay.
And we got to remember too, they're at the federal level.
Right.
That's why it's important to vote in your local elections because that's where change truly happens.
But people don't listen. And like with these cases, you know, you can't say, I hear, you know, a lot of inmates follow me because they're trying to get access to me or whatever. I'm watching their pages and they're telling you who not to vote for. And this judge did this, and this judge did that, or this prosecutor did this. And people don't, you know, they don't care about the judges and stuff. This is the first time that I myself actually paid attention to the judges. Like usually I'm like, I know who this person
see
is.
people on the belt line with signs for judges now.
Yeah.
Who's running for judge? Like people are paying attention to
Yeah.
a lot more things right now.
Because you have to. You have to.
But when those brothers are talking to you, listen to them.
Yeah,
because they know.
They know.
They know.
They know the importance of laws. Like with the First Step Act, he did make a lot of changes for the new people, but the people that are affected by those laws, it's not retroactive. So they're still sitting in their misery. So now they're like, well, ask them to make it retroactive. And then, you know, they came back and they said, well, it's up to the judge.
Right.
And that could be a good thing, but it could send you right back to your cell as well. So, you know, it's all about how many people you got standing behind you, and all that. How many people are making noise for you to, you know, or whatever. And then I met a guy that said when he went to court, his whole family, I mean, cousins that he didn't even know was his cousins, like the mama's church, everybody was at that courtroom.
It made a big difference.
And it made a difference. And I use that example to cases, and I tell them, but I can't, you know. I said, okay, we're holding a rally for Lil Pookie Friday at 3.
It humanizes. When you bring that group into the courtroom, it makes you a human. Instead of just a name on a paper and a criminal that committed a crime.
Exactly.
You know, now you're somebody that I have to empathize with because that's your mom, that's your daddy, that's your sister, your cousin.
Right.
Now I got to think about their feelings and all that. You know, now I can't just throw you away and forget about you.
Right, but if nobody's there, that's what happens, and it's sad. You know,
and if you don't have mom and dad and all that, don't worry about it. Bring Pookie and Ray Ray and all that. And, you know, the guys you grew up with, bring them to court with you.
The most beautiful thing I see is inmates coming back for other inmates, like former inmates coming back. Like, you know, one of the guys, we're friends now. We call him Choice, but it's his duty to go back and get certain individuals out. Like it's whatever I got to do. He's off papers now, so he's like, you know, I don't owe them anything, so this guy shouldn't be in there, so I'm fighting for him. And, you know, he's got a T-shirt for a different guy, you know, whatever he got to do to get those people out that, you know, he feels doesn't belong in there.
From the human perspective, it's hard to overlook the fact that somebody, even if he is an ex-con, he's sitting there and saying, you know, this brother helped me out. He helped me. He taught me how to read this, how to do this research, how to do that. He did all that. You're more humanizing that person to that judge. Because honestly, the day you walked in that courtroom, this is all you were. You expected to that judge. And that's all he did. Because guess what? It's a job to him too.
Right. We have a rally coming up on April for parole reform. And on every parole denial, it says due to the nature of your crime. And I'm like, okay, but his crime was stealing a pickle at the convenience store. So because he did that, he can never go home. Like it, you know, some of them, you know, like I told him, if you killed somebody, I can understand a lot. But when we decide to fight, like we're not supposed to take murder, but if we read the case and they didn't have your evidence, you know, they don't even, you can't even really tell it was you, or there's no way it could possibly be you and you're doing time, but we advocate for you. But it's just the way the court system works that makes it hard to do this. Like, you know, we're going to have our first freedom next month, and we're excited about it, even though it still wasn't fair. And we have 2 parole possibilities coming up. But other than that, you know, sometimes I feel so bad because I don't know if we're going to ever be able to get you out. We're just fighting for you. And we're trying to build a team around you to help you get out of there because you don't belong there. But you might die. You know, I don't want you to die in there with hope that you're going to get out. You know, it's a lot of sleepless nights for me.
Yeah,
Like, you know, like sometimes I don't want to answer the phone because when it's a new case, because
It weighs you down.
it weighs me down. Orlando Fields case, I couldn't sleep because the mom painted the picture for me. Like she was crying and she was like, they doing this to him and they doing that. And I went to sleep and I was dreaming it. And I just woke up and started typing like, okay, let me find him. Let me find out what's going on.
But the thing to keep in mind is someone asked me when I told them about what you're doing and the show and what you guys are working towards. They asked me, how many people have you helped? My answer was, if it was one, that was one less than yesterday.
Yeah.
You know? So,
Right.
I mean,
Right. We're helping a lot of people, but actually got them out.
Yeah.
You know, it's a hard
and
process. It's not
sometimes,
easy.
and sometimes, you know what? It isn't the success that's the important thing. It's the hope that you bring to that person.
Oh yeah.
Right.
That's the rewarding part. When
And
they
feeling like they matter too.
yeah. That initial phone call is kind of like a drug to me. Like when they're so happy, because I don't get too many. I'm so happy that you called phone calls. So you know when they call me, they finally reach me because now I'm hard to reach. Like in the beginning when we only had 2 cases, you know, the first few people calling us, we'd be on the phone all day. Yeah, girl, you know. But now when they get me, I'm trying to get off. You know, okay, send me your case because I can't really stay on the phone with you because I gotta work or I gotta do this, I gotta go to court, whatever it is I got planned for that day. But I got one guy and if he's listening, I constantly have to tell him, you have to make an appointment, and he'll just call. And it got irritating because there's 3 people at his facility that were helping, and I could have an appointment with one, and then the phone will ring and it's him. So I'll hang up because you're blocking him from getting to me. I only have one line coming through this phone. And I've told his mama, like, please tell him to stop. Please tell him to Jay pay me, make an appointment, and honor that appointment. You can't just call me when you feel like it. So now that I know we're getting ready to do chapters, I told him it's probably by the middle of the year, you can't call me at all. You're gonna have to call the St. Louis chapter. And he broke down. And I was just like, I mean, why are you crying? And he was just like, but I felt like we have a connection. And I just thought back to when Ed said, you're too nice. Stop being friendly, keep it business. But it's hard, like, it's hard to keep it business when somebody is, if they get friendly with me, I'm friendly with them. Like, to me, I just want to thank you for what you're doing. Tell your team thank you, and here's mommy, my cousin, and then they call thank you. So now I'm part of the family. They're sending me cards. And it's hard not to be friendly, but because we've grown so much in such a quick time, I know it's only going to get even bigger. I have to now put on that face and do what he said to do. And okay, we'll send you your case, and somebody from our team will be contacting you. So now the people get that, but the people in the beginning, they think I'm their best friend.
It's the same thing in counseling. You sit there, the first couple counsels you hear is like, okay, you know what, the kids don't like my cooking, sorry.
Right.
But eventually you get to that one person,
right,
that's got this gut wrenching story that they, when you finally get them talking, and they just divulge everything.
Yeah.
And it's literally a tractor trailer sitting on top of a train,
right,
on top of your back, and
right.
you're just sitting there, and you're like, okay, you know what? Even as a man, you sit there, it's like, man, I don't want to cry.
Right.
I don't want to cry.
Yeah.
But but you.
Yeah.
The more you do it,
and
it's not saying that you're desensitized to it.
Oh no.
It's that that remaining professional only helps you and them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a 911 operator. I mean, they have to stay professional to get through the situation and get help if needed.
Perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect example.
Yeah. But you guys have known me for years, and like I've always kind of been a sucker for a sob story. So, when we first started with Danielle and myself, like he sent me the packet. He told me what it was, like the idea he had. And I was like, ooh, that sounds cool. So he mailed me the information on it with all the case laws and everything. And so I told Danielle, you want to do this for me? And she was like, sure, because this is what she was interested in. And then from there, it started with she and I just going to radio stations with one case saying, look at this. And they're just slamming the door in our face. And, we getting frustrated because we're seeing the railroading on this case,
Yeah.
but nobody will let us tell the story. And he kept saying, y'all need to, get it out there somehow. They may not let you use their platform, so use your platform. So she and I started putting our information on social media. And then from there, we started going from state to state.
Right.
And then, we did the governor's mansion and I met him. And then from there, we got Playfair Friday. So it's just been a growing situation.
I mean, but what I really like about you guys is that it's not tailored to race,
Right.
because it can also be a socioeconomic situation
Yeah.
where, the poor are just as downtrodden as any other race.
Right.
You
But
know?
here's the thing. We do get accused of that because we have 2 white cases,
Right.
2 women, and everybody else is black men. No anything else. But it's not purposely done that way. It's just that
Unfortunately, when you look at the demographics of
Right.
the prison system and who is getting the bad sentences,
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's where you
that's
end up.
what it ends
Once
up.
again, I hate to keep bringing it back up. Go to the USSC.
Right.
It tells you that. The government tells you, yes, I have screwed black men. Sorry.
Right. I had a guy send me a case the other day to Messenger. And then I saw it, like I opened it while I was driving. I didn't read it. I just kind of opened it and I went on back about my day and forgot about it.
Right.
So what did he do? He just kept sending me question marks for like 3 days straight until I finally came back into that. He was like, thank you for finally giving me your attention. And I was like, that was smart because eventually I'm going to see one of them like, what does he want? But he just kept hitting the question mark and sending it until I finally responded to him. And I was just like, I never thought in a million years people would want to talk to me this bad. But yeah, what time is it? Are we done? Well, oh God, we did good. Well, we're going to wrap up this edition of Playfair Friday. Danielle, thank you for calling in.
You're welcome. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. I want to thank you both for coming in. The conversation was so good because I was actually wondering if we were going to be able to make it last. And she was like, I'm so nervous. I don't want to say the wrong thing. And I'm like, girl, the way you post for she's always posting for the rights of others. I couldn't imagine you're going to piss us off all of a sudden.
Well, you don't know what you're doing.
But I thank you. Brian has always been one of the people. We've had arguments, about beliefs.
Oh, yeah.
We don't always agree, but we always agree to disagree.
And she's even changed my mind on one.
And vice versa.
So,
We change each other's mind, but that's why I think he's one of the reasons why I tried to understand the Trump supporters and try to find something in Trump that I can understand why they voted. I tried. And some days I could actually see it. And some days I was like, but then he would open his mouth and I would be like, you know what? No. But thank you guys for this. And to the people waiting for our Mississippi show, I promise you next week we will still have it. Not that your case wasn't important. I just thought before we go to that, we needed to address this because it touched on what we've been pitching all this time, the differences and how we're treated. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen with them, as far as the trials go or whatever. Who's going to, get what? Because I know if I did something like that, if I just even went and picked a berry off of the lawn,
yeah. We'd all be up for execution
tomorrow. But anything y'all want to say in closing? We got like 15 minutes left before the show's over. Don't be shy now.
I mean, it's been psychologically a rough week.
Yeah.
On everyone.
Exactly.
On everyone. And the thing is you just gotta take this momentum.
Mm-hmm.
You have to use it. You gotta put it to something positive. You gotta, make a difference. Sort of like what you're doing with FAIR and things of this nature. One of the things that I've been really focused on lately that I want to use, almost in your arena, but not quite, is felons' voting rights.
Oh, yeah.
That's something that I really I got a big beef with
I have a
that.
problem with that too.
If I've sat in prison for 20 years, why can't I vote?
No, I have friends who did stupid things in their early 20s that can't vote now in their 40s. It just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Now, I did get my right to vote. Like, I don't know if it counted but they sent me a voter registration card. They kept going to my sister's house because I registered my name and address to her. She's the reason why I voted.
Right.
If you don't vote, they steady calling saying there's someone here who's registered to vote who didn't vote. But if it counted, I don't know. This might have been, and I'm almost 50. I think this may be the second, maybe the third time. I definitely don't think I voted 3 times in my life. I didn't even vote for during Obama. But I don't know if it counts or not. I mean, but they did send me the information.
I assume it would.
Yeah, then I got a little discouraged when they had to do the recounting of the votes. I think when we had who was it, Gore, and he was going against Bush, and then they was telling us about the electoral vote versus the popular vote. And so what I was really saying was, shit, it don't matter if I vote because they gonna put in who they want to put in, and it just didn't sit well with me at that point.
You got people who make one bad party night when they're 21, and then they do all these great things when they're in their 30s and 40s, and then they can't vote.
But I think Georgia, they can now, right? Because if yours got reinstated, I know a couple of felons who's got reinstated, but they don't advertise it.
Certain
Well, my
states
little- I
have a
want my little
reinstatement
sticker.
process.
Yeah.
It just varies from state to state.
So they have to go through something now.
Oh yeah, there's a reinstatement process you have to go through.
Yeah.
So
But I feel like, even if you're a felon, even if you're in prison or on paper, you have a right to vote for who is over your life. Just especially if there's a chance you
You're
might
still
get to
a
go to
person.
court. You get to vote on who might put me to death or vote, vote on who's gonna
Yeah, I even
do
read something about a guy who bounced a check in the 90s.
Yeah.
Bounced a check. Cannot vote today
that's great.
because they got him for felony deposit account fraud. Because he bounced a check that he didn't pay for. He can't vote.
Wow.
How much was the check for?
But see, some of these people sitting in prison, some of the older guys sitting in prison are in prison for the correct things. To us, is like, like the man who stole a rake out of his neighbor's lawn.
I don't know how true this is, but I did read something about a gentleman who died in prison probably about 8-9 years ago in Mississippi.
Right.
Sitting in there for shoplifting.
Yeah, I think
Second or third offense on shoplifting. Sat in there for over 30 years and died in prison for shoplifting.
That's great.
Yeah. See, the Mississippi stories were crazy to me. The first one I heard, the guy told me he was a truck driver. I found out that Mississippi has if you drive a 18-wheeler and you hit somebody with your 18-wheeler, it can be life in prison because that's a weapon. If you're under the influence of something, or even if you're driving while sleeping, they can use it as a weapon. It just depends on the judge and what he has. So the first guy that called me with that, he said that he literally stopped at a gas station, and he like Bush, Mississippi, or something. It was a little bitty town in Mississippi, and they arrested him. They said that they said he was driving under the influence, but what he took was some minivans. And I thought a lot of truck drivers take those to stay awake, but he had those in his system, and they told him that if he didn't sign for 5 years, he'd have to do life. Well, he's a prior felon, and he knows that they mean that, so he signed for 5 years. And his wife called me and was hot, like she was hot at him for doing that. And I told her, I said, see, I said, until now, I wouldn't have signed for the 5 years. I said, but now I honestly don't know, because it's a gamble not to, because I see so many people who were offered 5 years and now doing life because they punished them for going to court.
Right. They got pissed at you because you made them go through the process.
Right. So I said, so now I don't know. I was sitting because I also know it takes long to fight. So, let me do my 5 years and then get out and fight to get exonerated, because that's my only hope of getting back to my family. And she didn't understand it, but she was white and he was black. And then as the story goes on, they gave him a misdemeanor at first, and then when she came to bail him out and they saw his beautiful white wife, they upgraded it to a felony. The judge did. So, and then I heard another guy told me the same story. He said he drove under he stopped at Bojangles or somewhere, got him something to eat, and then the police officer followed him, said that he was wanted for a crime. And he said, I've never been to the state. Like, literally, this is my first time in this state, and I'm stuck here.
Yeah, one of my military friends, he got into a bar fight. The guy died. He went to prison for manslaughter. And he was defending his girlfriend. But you know, like you said, wrong place, wrong time.
Mhm.
Good guy. Can't vote.
Is he out of prison?
Yeah. Can't vote. You know, to me, that's a travesty. This is a guy who defended his country honorably up until that day.
Right.
You know, but he can't vote.
So moving forward, do y'all have any suggestions on the Black race? There's a lot that we've witnessed this week. You know, we've been dealing with everything else forever. But just to have it right there in our face for the world to see.
Well, pendulum always switches back, so I think this needed to happen for it to switch back the other way.
Yeah. Because the world leaders see this,
Yes.
you know.
I worry about the kids on this, and I worry that people will try to hide this from them. Don't.
Yeah.
Don't. You know, exposure. That's
Oh,
what
yeah.
it is. Especially if you're a young Black male child.
Right.
Exposure. Sit him down and let him understand that this is the world.
Yeah.
This is what it is. You know.
I mean, the conversations that we have to have with our kids, I never thought I would have to have. And now mine include criminal justice. Like, I forgot what my son went through, and I was just like, okay, this is what can happen. If you don't do this, this, and this, you can be.
I think that we're really going to hold Biden to doing things. I mean, he actually came out to say what if that was BLM, because people are just so over it.
Yeah.
He's going to have to step up and do things differently than he did in the past.
I was
He's gonna
happy
have
that he
to.
said that too.
People are going to hold him accountable.
Right.
Even more now
Yes.
because of his past.
Because of his past. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Not to say that he's a different guy, but people are loud enough now that
Right.
he's going to have to do something he wasn't doing before a little different.
Right.
He has to continue this momentum of change.
Before people
Right.
were quiet about it, he could get away with it.
Right.
Now he's got to keep it up.
Right.
Yeah, but Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all that, these are tragedies. But these tragedies turn into some form of triumph. Look at what happened. We have a Black man and a Jewish man going to the Senate in the state of Georgia.
That's
I mean,
huge.
honestly, 10 years ago, I'd have said you were full of crap. Get out of my
Right.
face.
Get out of my face.
You know,
And it was kind of funny to me, out of all the states, that Georgia was the deciding state.
Right.
That tickled me. Whether and I think I told my mom that I thought it was going to be a split, and I thought that the Republicans would win, because we did have Obama saying that because we didn't have the Senate, a lot of things that he was trying to bring forth was being beat down. So now I'm looking like, okay, we got the Senate, we have the Democrat. Biden, you have the opportunity to make right what you kind of made wrong.
Right.
But I think it's going to also expose some of the moles on the Democratic side.
Mhm.
Because everybody that say they Democrat may not be
Exactly.
a true Democrat. So
Right.
I think this is going to be kind of interesting to see who was really
Yeah.
on
and
both
what I
sides.
really love about this is you have no excuses.
Yep.
You have the Senate, you have the House.
Right.
Your excuses are
Oh,
gone.
people are going to hold him to it.
Right.
So
I'm gonna hold to it.
Stacey
Definitely.
Abrams going to hold him to it.
Oh yeah,
Right,
definitely.
Right.
Because I did all this work for you. You better you better do what you better do.
At least give us that effort. At least let us see, and then let the chips
And I'm
fall.
curious to
Right.
see where he puts her, because clearly she's going to have a job.
Oh,
I thought she turned it down. Oh no, that was Keisha. Never mind. Keisha.
Stacey's a force. I mean, she's
Yeah.
a force to be reckoned with. I mean, I'll be honest with you. A few years ago, I voted for her, didn't like her, but
Now yeah.
I mean, I've seen you see her beating the streets. You see her,
Yeah.
going and getting the votes and changing a Jim Crow state.
Right.
That's true.
She did.
Although, Georgia is becoming the liberal mecca of the
Right,
South.
right.
You got people moving in, Hollywood people, you got LGBTQ
That's your
moving in
point. If you look
from
at
all
the
of the places around.
But
So-
a lot of that's because of the gentrification of Atlanta. So
That is,
so now they're moving. We're gonna work in Atlanta, but we're gonna
so
move
and then
outward.
you got folks who used to live downtown moving out to Gwinnett, moving out further, moving out further.
Paulding
And then in
County,
downtown,
Cherokee County.
You got people coming in from California. You got people coming in that don't want to live in their podunk towns in Mississippi and West
Right.
Virginia and everywhere else. They're
Go look at the
coming to
voter.
Atlanta.
You're right on point. Because look at the voter demographic maps for Georgia and what was blue and what was red. Look at every county And look at that expansion
Oh, yeah,
right
this is a
around
forever blue
Atlanta.
state now, because we've become the liberal mecca of the South.
Right.
Yeah.
And that trend, every year, every vote, you can just see it. That liberal vote just kind of increases.
Oh, yeah.
And
And in the last
then
few years with that tax cut for Hollywood really put us over the top because we got so many people
Oh, yeah.
moving in from California.
Oh, yeah. But see, their housing market did that as well because it's, the things we complain about. Like, I remember I was on the Uber ride and I was like, yeah, I was in an apartment and it went from 1,100 to 1,700. And I was like, oh, yeah, and it ain't even worth all that. And they was like, oh, that's good. They was like, because I paid $3,000 and I live in a project. And I'm like, what? So when they started hearing about the low, you can get a mansion for what I'm paying, moving to Atlanta.
Yeah, you just go up, go a couple suburbs up, you get basically a mansion for $250.
Right.
Get a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah,
Right. Douglasville, you can get a big old house in Douglasville
Yeah,
for
my
nothing.
sister about a year ago said, I'm moving to Tucker. I'm like, Tucker? And she's like, yeah, have you been over there lately? No.
Yeah,
Why would I go there?
Yeah, Tucker's changed.
I had my eye on Tucker, actually.
Huh?
Yeah, Tucker's changed a
Yeah.
lot.
So,
I was in downtown Marietta, I think about a year ago, and it said the GPS said turn left on Lemon Street, and I was like thinking I was lost, and because they had put high rises and there was big old houses, but Lemon Street used to be like crackheads and and I was just like, wait, Lemon Street? When they do this? When I been? Where was I
2
at?
years ago, I was driving
Yeah.
down by the AUC, and I was just like, and I was like, I'm gonna turn it. I know this road. I shouldn't be down this road.
Right.
I'm gonna turn down and just go, just to cut over to where I'm going. Turn down, like, wow,
Right.
what's all this?
When is that? But yeah, but that is our show for today. I would like to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, and did you guys want to give your social media for the people that are
Oh,
tuning in?
yeah, I'm
not sure if you
sorry.
guys I don't know if you guys were on social media.
Super Sally Girl ATL on Instagram.
Super Sally.
Super
Okay.
salad.
Yeah.
Super Sally Girl ATL. Yeah.
Okay.
And the Brian with an I Hopkins on Twitter at the Brian Hopkins.
Okay, let me add this stuff there. And I definitely appreciate you guys coming and giving your dialogue and giving us some information and your opinion. I think it was well needed.
Yes, thank
And,
you. It was a good show.
It's a great show. And
Yeah.
we did record it, so you guys, we could pick
Yeah.
a date where we could replay it and have everyone else tune in for the people who may have missed
Is it gonna be up tonight on
Oh, it's up
YouTube?
now.
Oh,
Yep,
okay.
it's actually up now. The first segment is up, and the second segment will be up shortly.
Thank you. Thank you guys. Alrighty.
Alrighty, well, you guys have a great weekend. As I always say, mask up, guns down. 2021 is the year for you to start doing whatever it is you couldn't get done last year. I'm your host, Pete Weezy, with my sexy co-host, Demita.
Tamita, we're always fighting against institutionalized railroading. Make sure they play fair with you, not just Friday, but every day of the week. Have a good one, y'all. All right, that was it. Thank you.